Welcome to Unstoppable Mind today, where we explore the incredible resilience of the human spirit in the face of overwhelming odds. Imagine a desolate land where rain has become a distant memory, a myth whispered by elders to children who have never seen clouds. In this unforgiving environment lived Ethan, a 35-year-old farmer who watched his beloved land slowly turn into barren dust. For 3 long years, the drought had consumed everything, leaving Ethan with nothing but a crumbling farm and a desperate heart. Every meal had become a reminder of their struggle, as the food supplies dwindled and the water barrels ran completely dry. He knew he could not simply wait for a miracle to fall from the sky. He had to create one himself. With a resolve forged in desperation, Ethan decided to dig a well on his own land, searching for a hidden lifeline. He marked a spot near the old oak tree, believing that deep beneath the parched surface a river of life was flowing. The ground was as hard as stone, resisting every strike, as if the earth itself was fighting against his bold attempt. Day after day, Ethan returned to that spot, swinging his pickaxe and shovel with a rhythm driven by fear and love. The first week passed slowly, and the hole was barely deep enough to stand in, yet he refused to stop digging. Neighbors walked by, shaking their heads and whispering that he had lost his mind along with his crops and his fortune. They called him a fool for chasing ghosts in the dirt, telling him to save his energy and accept his fate. But Ethan closed his ears to their cruelty, focusing only on the sound of metal striking earth and his own breathing. By the 3rd week, the pit had grown deeper, swallowing him whole, cutting him off from the world and the mocking voices. His hands were raw and blistered, bleeding from the constant friction, yet he wrapped them in rags and kept on digging. The world above became a distant memory, reduced to a small circle of blue sky that seemed to mock his isolation. At night, his body screamed in agony, every muscle aching, but the thought of his family's thirst pushed him forward relentlessly. 5 weeks in, doubt began to creep into his mind, whispering that perhaps the villagers were right about his foolish quest. He started to see mirages in the darkness, imagining the sound of rushing water only to find dry dust and silence. He encountered massive rocks that required hours of backbreaking labor to remove, testing the very limits of his physical endurance. Danger was his constant companion in the narrow shaft, where one wrong move could bury him alive in his own creation. 7 weeks of digging had taken him 15 feet down, but the earth remained as dry as the desert sand above. His wife watched with a growing fear, seeing her husband fade away, consumed by the obsession to find what might not exist. He ate his meager meals in the dark, the taste of dust mixing with the bread, fueling his body but not his spirit. 9 weeks passed, and at 20 feet deep, the soil changed, becoming incredibly dense and difficult to penetrate with his tools. Every blow sent a shockwave through his arms, as if he were striking solid iron instead of the earth beneath him. Frustration boiled over into a scream that echoed up the shaft, a cry of a man pushed to his absolute breaking point. He leaned against the cold, hard wall, tears cutting tracks through the grime on his face, feeling utterly defeated and alone. Memories of green fields and laughing children flooded his mind, a sharp contrast to the cold, dark reality of his prison. The darkness seemed to press in on him, whispering that his efforts were in vain and that he should just give up. 10 weeks. 22 feet. Ethan gathered his last ounce of strength for one final strike against the unforgiving, impenetrable floor. With a sickening crack, the metal shovel snapped in two, leaving him holding a broken handle and a broken dream. He stared at the useless wood in his hands, the silence of the well amplifying the sound of his shattering heart. He collapsed onto the dirt floor, burying his face in his bleeding hands, ready to accept that he had failed everyone. From above, he was just a speck in the dark, a man who had dug his own grave in a quest for life. Slowly, painfully, he climbed the rope ladder back to the surface, leaving his hope buried 22 feet underground in the dark. The blinding sun greeted him not with warmth, but with a harsh glare that illuminated his failure for all to see. His wife ran to his side, but he could only shake his head, words failing to express the depth of his sorrow. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the barren land, Ethan felt the weight of the world crushing him. Suddenly, the sound of an engine broke the silence, and an old battered truck rolled up the dusty driveway to his gate. Out stepped Ralph, a legendary well-digger whose face was etched with the maps of 1,000 underground journeys he had taken. Ralph didn't say a word at first. He simply looked at the defeated farmer and then at the gaping hole in the earth. Ethan looked up with weary eyes, expecting more mockery or perhaps pity, neither of which he wanted to receive right now. The old man walked to the edge of the pit, peered into the abyss, and picked up a fragment of dark soil. He crumbled the hard clod between his calloused fingers, inspecting its texture and color with the eye of a true master. He turned to Ethan with a knowing smile and said, "Son, you are stopping right at the doorstep of your salvation." Ethan stood up, confusion replacing his despair, unable to comprehend how a broken shovel and hard rock could be salvation. Ralph held up the dense fragment. "This is blue clay," he explained. "It is the hardest armor the earth possesses." He explained that this layer is the final guardian, a dense barrier that protects the purest, most abundant water hidden beneath. The old man looked Ethan in the eye. "You don't need more brute force, son. You need patience and precision now." He went to his truck and returned not with a bigger shovel, but with a small, sharp chisel and a hammer. Ethan looked at the small tools, skeptical that these tiny instruments could succeed where his heavy pickaxe had failed so miserably. "Do not fight the clay," Ralph advised. "Listen to it. Find the natural fractures and tap gently. Let the earth yield." With nothing left to lose, Ethan took a deep breath, gathered his courage, and descended into the darkness one last time. Down in the pit, the air was still and heavy. Ethan looked at the blue clay that had broken his spirit. He placed the chisel against a hairline crack and tapped. Not a violent blow, but a precise, calculated strike of intention. To his amazement, a chunk of the rock-hard clay flaked off easily, yielding to the technique rather than resisting the force. He fell into a rhythm, a meditation of steel against stone, chipping away the barrier inch by inch with newfound hope. Above ground, Ralph listened to the steady tapping, nodding his head as he knew the breakthrough was drawing closer every second. Minutes turned into an hour. The pile of blue shards grew at his feet, and the impenetrable floor was thinning out. Suddenly the air in the shaft changed. A cool, fresh scent of minerals and moisture began to rise from the cracks. Ethan paused, his heart pounding against his ribs. He positioned the chisel one more time and gave a firm tap. The ground hissed, and then, with a glorious sound, water began to bubble up, clear and cold, from the deep earth. He laughed, a sound of pure joy, as the water splashed his face. He tasted it, sweet, cold, and full of life. "Ralph! Water! We have water!" Ethan shouted, his voice cracking with emotion as the echo carried his victory to the surface. Above, his wife collapsed in relief, and Ralph smiled, knowing that another soul had learned the lesson of the blue clay. The water rose quickly, a powerful force unleashed after centuries of waiting. Ethan climbed up, the water chasing his heels playfully. He emerged into the sunlight, soaking wet, and pulled his wife into an embrace that washed away months of fear and sorrow. Ralph gripped Ethan's hand firmly. "You did good, son. You didn't give up when the world told you to quit." They installed a pump, and soon a steady stream of crystal-clear water was flowing, a miracle in the middle of the drought. The villagers who had mocked him now came to watch in awe, drinking the water that they said would never be found. With water came life. Ethan's fields turned green again, the crops stood tall, and the farm transformed from dust to paradise. Ethan stood amidst his thriving crops, looking back at the well that had taught him the greatest lesson of his life. He realized that the blue clay wasn't a curse. It was a sign that the treasure was close, protecting it for the worthy. He didn't keep the water to himself. He shared it with the very neighbors who had doubted him, healing the community. He taught his son that when the ground gets hardest, it means you are closest to the source of life. Ralph moved on to help others, leaving behind not just a well, but a legacy of persistence that would last forever. The farm became an oasis, a testament to what happens when you refuse to let the hardness of life break your will. Ethan wrote down his journey, wanting to remind his future self that the darkest moments are often just before the dawn. This story teaches us that persistence isn't just about pushing harder, it's about knowing when to change your approach and adapt. It reminds us that the voices of doubt around you are just noise. Only you know how deep you have dug. We all face our blue clay moments, obstacles that seem impossible, designed to test if we are truly ready for success. Maybe you are facing your own drought right now. Maybe you have been digging for weeks, months, or even years without results. You might be feeling tired, your hands bleeding, your tools broken, and the world telling you that it is time to quit. But remember, Ethan, remember that the layer that broke his shovel was the very layer protecting the water he so desperately needed. Perhaps you don't need to quit. Perhaps you just need to put down the heavy shovel and pick up the precision chisel. Your breakthrough is not miles away. It is likely just inches beneath the surface, waiting for one final calculated effort. Ethan's family never went hungry again, not because luck found them, but because their father refused to stop digging for them. The water was always there. It was waiting for him, just as your success is waiting for you to claim it. Ask yourself today, are you hitting the blue clay? Are you feeling the resistance that comes right before the great reward? If you are, do not stop. Do not let the hardness of the challenge fool you into thinking it is a dead end. Be like Ralph for others. If you see someone struggling, remind them that their blue clay is a sign of victory. The blue clay is the universe's way of asking, how badly do you want this? Are you willing to go deeper? Years later, when the rains finally returned, Ethan still kept the well active, a monument to his darkest and brightest days. The well became a symbol for the village, a place where people came to remember that hope is a discipline, not a feeling. An unstoppable mind is not one that never fails. It is one that sees the hard clay and chooses to dig anyway. The journey changed Ethan. He was no longer just a farmer. He was a man who knew the secrets of the earth. So go out there. Find your patch of dry earth, start digging, and when you hit the rock, smile and keep going. Life is vast and full of hidden treasures. They are not left on the surface for everyone. They are buried for the brave. Your hands may bleed, your back may ache, and your heart may tremble, but your spirit must remain as solid as steel. The path to greatness is rarely a straight line. It is a vertical dig through the layers of your own limitations. Here at Unstoppable Mind today, we believe that every one of you holds the potential to dig your own well of success. We want to hear your stories. What is the blue clay in your life right now? Share it in the comments below. Let's build a community of diggers, a brotherhood and sisterhood of those who refuse to stop until they find the water. Ethan found his water. Ralph shared his wisdom. Now it is your turn to pick up the tools and write your story. One drop of water can start a river. One moment of courage can change a destiny. Be that drop. Be that moment. The universe favors the stubborn. It bends reality for those who simply refuse to accept no for an answer. Tomorrow brings a new day and a new chance to dig. Do not let the failures of yesterday stop your progress today. Keep your broken shovels as trophies. They are proof that you tried, that you fought, and that you pushed past your limits. One day, you will look back at this struggle and smile, knowing it was the forging fire that made you who you are. Flow like water. Be relentless like time, and be hard like the blue clay until you break through to the light. Belief is the only tool you truly need. If you believe there is water, you will find a way to reach it. Thank you for joining us on this journey today. We hope Ethan's story has watered the seeds of hope in your heart. If this video inspired you, please like and subscribe. It helps us dig deeper and bring more stories to light. Check out our other videos for more tales of resilience and power. Your next breakthrough might be just one click away. Remember, no one digs alone forever. Seek your mentors, trust the process, and never underestimate the power of a determined soul. From the depths of the earth to the height of the sky, limits exist only in the mind. Break them today. You are unstoppable. You are capable.